All right, so let's start with part one of today's agenda, which is a overview of UC Easy. And I'm going to start with a short video that positions UC Easy, and then I'm going to delve into some slides.
Meet two high school students, Raj and Kyle. Kyle goes to private school, where college admissions experts spend large amounts of time to help students get into their dream college. His parents went to Yale, which means they can guide him in what he needs to do in high school to get into a top-notch university. With an upper hand both at home and at school, Kyle will be admitted into one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Meanwhile, Raj, like most children whose parents were educated outside the US, goes to public school. The student-to-college counselor ratio at his school is 2,000 to 1. Without a college admissions expert to allocate enough time to make his application stand out, Raj can very easily become one in a million. For Raj's parents, who didn't go to an American university or four-year college, the system can be very confusing. To beat the odds, Raj will need help he can't get from school or at home. That's where UC Easy comes in. We can help level the playing field for students whose parents were educated outside the US. UC Easy, University and college admissions made easy.
So let me give you just a little bit more about UC Easy, and then we will talk about the career pathways. The name stands for University and College Admissions Made Easy. So U for university and C for colleges. And the mission of UC Easy is to simplify the high school journey and college admissions for students whose parents were educated outside the US, or that feel that the system here is so different that they cannot deal with it themselves. UC Easy was co-founded by me and another immigrant parent about 7 years back. Our original group of clients that we wanted to help was from this immigrant background, which happens to be my background as well. But then over the last 2 years, there have been so many changes in college admissions in the US, especially the de-emphasis on SAT and ACT, that now a lot of native families, native meaning parents that were born in the US, went to school and college here, even they are coming to us for help, and everyone is welcome. What is UC Easy? We are a national virtual school for college prep and college admissions. Think of us as a full-fledged academy where we help students from grade 8 till 12 and community college students seeking to transfer to a four-year college. We have a large team currently at 75 experts in different areas, supporting more than 1,000 students all across the United States. And we are very proud that 98% of our students over the last few years have been admitted to colleges ranked in the top 10% nationally. On the screen, you would see a sample of my team. Like I said, we've got more than 75 experts. These include college admissions experts in grades 11th and 12th. Equally importantly, counselors that specialize in all-around development of students in grade 8 till 10. We also have on the team essay writing coaches. And then obviously today we're going to talk about experts in specific majors like computer science and pre-med. And you will get to meet Mr. Brian Ford, who is director of our career pathway, but also our expert on pre-med programs. It's a very high quality team. Nothing is outsourced anywhere. It's all US based, minimum of a master's degree. Our college admissions experts have an average of 18 years experience in college admissions. And 60% of our college admissions experts are current or ex-admissions officers from different universities across the country. 2 different programs for students in 8 till 12th grade. And today's the career pathways, the primary focus is on 8th till 10th grade. Think of the college admissions journey, that's core UC Easy philosophy, as a 5-year cycle. Build the foundation of the student in grade 8 till 10. Do final refinement in grade 11th, and then actually apply to colleges in grade 12th. We believe that the hardest work during this college admissions journey is actually done in grade 8 till 10, because that's where the foundation is laid. And then in 11th and 12th grade, we will help you with the actual applications process. This slide is very key to understanding who UC Easy is and how we are different, and why we believe that you can trust us with every single element of your student's journey through high school and college admissions. At the core of UC Easy is highly personalized support. I already talked about 2 different programs for 8 to 10th and 11 to 12th. We believe that the experts here have 2 completely different skills. And a big part of understanding UC Easy is to understand that we went through 7 years to figure this part out. And I don't think that any other organization in this country, in the entire United States, has cracked this code, that this skill here is very different than here. Here, you can have ex-admissions officers from Harvard, and we have them here in this group. But here is somebody that specializes in connecting with the student and to help in all-around development. As I mentioned before, we have other coaches. College essay writing is so critical now. Everybody agrees that now, after academics, is the number 2 most important element of college admissions. We talked about expertise in different majors. We also have, just like at your public school or at your private school, you have psychologists. We have family success coaches that can work with students that are dealing with stress or anxiety or simply feeling overwhelmed or unfocused. Because our primary mission is to support families where the parents are unaware about the US high school system, middle school system, college admissions, in addition to the one-on-one stuff that we do, we also offer informational sessions to UC Easy families to bridge the information gap that a UC Easy family has compared to parents that went to school or college here. We ourselves don't provide academic tutoring like physics or chemistry or SAT prep, but we have high quality partners that we work with. My vision as the leader of the academy is that you keep your student at your public high school or even at a private high school. And as a parent, you can feel comfortable in leaving key decisions for your students' high school journey and college admissions to us. Literally outsource it to us if that's what you want. These testimonials here, I chose them because they represent what UC Easy is all about. I'll let you read those.
So here we go. We are all set. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We have a really good bunch of information, if you will, on the UCs and really what's been happening. Very much in a whiplash mode, if you will, as far as counselors and students and families trying to figure out what in the heck is going on. So here is some basic information about me. Vinny did a very nice job, probably oversold me a little bit on my experience, but no, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. And until recently, I was working with the University of California, reading for one of their campuses. And I've been working primarily with high school students since about 2002. So I have been in public schools and I understand what's going on in the California public school system with the huge counseling caseloads. And so I have some good perspective there on how to help work with students as we go through this process. Very excited to have Alan join us today. He's going to help with our Q&A. So as we are going through this webinar, please make sure that you are putting the questions in the Q&A, not in the chat box, and he will go ahead and monitor those and He will lead us off with his wealth of experience. As you can see, he's our 10th to 12th grade counselor and director of the program strategy at UC Easy. He has so much knowledge about the highly selective university system, Stanford, UC Berkeley, and of course, Davidson College, really strong liberal arts and science college, and then master's in higher education from Harvard Graduate School of Education. So pay attention to Alan when he speaks. All right, let's get going. Okay, so you are here because you are probably wondering what is going on with the UC system. You probably have a good sense at this point, maybe just from speaking with friends or talking with counselors or teachers or reading even the newspaper, what the current UC, University of California system policy is. You can see it right here on the slide. The UCs will not consider SAT or AC test scores when making admissions decisions or awarding scholarships. So if you choose to submit test scores as part of your application, they may be used as an alternative method of fulfilling minimum requirements for eligibility or for course placement after you enroll. So what does this mean? The SAT and ACT used to be one part of the comprehensive and holistic review for the UC system. It is no longer part of that comprehensive review. However, if a student does have a test score, SAT or ACT, that they would like to submit after they are admitted to a UC campus, then that test score could potentially help them fulfill minimum English and math placement courses. So that's really the only way that the SATs and ACTs are going to be used now. So let's talk about the implications for students. All right, so if you haven't seen this exciting data, it's not unusual for us as counselors to see such an uptick in applications. However, you can see from fall 2020 to fall 2021 admissions cycle, UCLA just exploded in their admissions applications. And these are just undergraduate. These are not graduate school admissions. This is undergraduate freshman admissions, okay? So you can see some of the top UCs are the ones that everybody wants to kind of go to, LA, San Diego, Berkeley. They just went up in a huge amount for their admissions. We can make some strong guesses that the fact that the UCs were not taking the SAT or ACT, it gave more confidence to students who felt that they probably wouldn't have a super high score to apply, and they decided to take that chance. And so many students applied test optional, test free. So they didn't have to submit, so they didn't necessarily take the test for the UC system. And this opened the door for so many more students to be applying because they felt confident their application could probably get a better review. And we could argue maybe even a more fair or equitable review without that test score. So you can see this is where we're at. But this does have implications for the rest of us, right? Admissions is becoming extremely competitive over the last couple of years. When the campuses admit these numbers of students, it doesn't mean that they're going to actually enroll all of them. So they're going to over admit, but they're not going to have extra room for the ones that they admit. So they're counting on their yield to put them in the same space. So if they get an extra 10,000 applications, they're not going to have 10,000 more spots for students. So this is where we're at. The selectivity then becomes much more competitive for these campuses. All right. So, and as a reminder, as we continue to go along, go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A, and we will get to those shortly. So I always like to give my families and students some background knowledge about what the heck was going on with these, with this whole testing evolution for the University of California system. So I have some articles that I've been watching and monitoring. It really has been an evolution of, and I mentioned before, whiplash. Honestly, counselors were just constantly saying, what's happening now? What's going on next? And it just seemed like things were changing on just in a very, very fast-paced way. So you can see this all started out in May of 2020. You remember the pandemic started March of 2020. We were all in lockdown. All of a sudden, 2 months later, the UC just went test optional. So what that meant is they were going to take testing or not take testing. It was up to the students. It was an option for the students. And then we rolled around a few months later into September, and Forbes reports that California, I believe, Supreme Court ordered the UCs not to use the ACT or SAT during the pandemic. So we went from test optional in May up to completely test-free in September in a span of a few short months. And then the following May 14th, 2021, the Daily Bruin, which is the UCLA newspaper, reported that the UCs are not using the SAT or ACT almost indefinitely, right, through the class of 2025. Then in September, when we went to our UC conference updates online, they clarified it was through the class of 2024. They were not using SAT, ACT. And so while we are confirmed, we're not using testing for the UC system, they're test free. However, the question was the UC system going to actually develop their own test? And so that was the next big question that we were looking at. So then in October, the LA Times reported that the UC system was going to nix the SAT entrance exam, and the faculty recommendation, there was going to be no further testing, right? So this is where we're at. At this point, UCs are test free, and there is no test that's going to be developed in sight by the UC system. Okay, so that is a little scary for some families because they feel like their testing is what's going to help them stand out. But we know that that's not necessarily the case, and we're going to talk about that today. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so finally, this is where we're at. The UC system will continue to practice test-free admissions in the foreseeable future. They are leaving the door open a little bit, but we do feel like we're pretty confident that within, these last few admission cycles, they're seeing such an uptick in admissions. We could have a discussion probably for another hour about SATs and ACTs and their equity and access for students across the board, but this is where we're at. So I'll just kind of let you guys read this a little bit. There's really no other testing in sight. So what does this mean for you as a junior? Definitely you're not submitting. What does this mean for you for an 8th grader or a freshman? Probably still not submitting any testing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get going into the meat of our presentation. Okay, so what does test-free mean? How does this impact the application process? And what really does it mean for our students? So test-free, as I mentioned, is that the UCs are not accepting tests. This, of course, brings up the question, well, what about subject tests and what about AP or IB exams? And as you can see here, AP exams and IB predicted grades will still be considered in holistic review, but they were never necessarily required anyway for the application process. It's always been something extra if you want to add on. And I will tell you, as someone who actually works at an independent school in Northern California, we don't offer any AP or honors courses, and my students still get accepted to the UC system. So my students are applying to the UCs without any AP exam scores, and they're still finding favorable admissions. So just so you know, it was never required in the first place, but if you do have AP exam scores that are healthy and you're excited about them, you should definitely put them on your application. So again, I've already reviewed that the test scores are going to be used for course placement, which is the SAT, ACT, to help you with your math and English placement once you've been admitted and you decide to enroll. And then finally, subject tests, those were eliminated, I believe, last January. It just all of a sudden just kind of stopped. They just stopped offering the subject tests. So I don't believe anybody who's a junior right now would actually have subject tests, but if you do, you would want to talk to your counselor to see if it's something to put on the application. But I think at this point, it's all done. Okay. So how does this impact the application? So as you might have listened before when I said that there was points of comprehensive review, there used to be 14 points of comprehensive review. The UC system got together years ago and they reevaluated their admissions on all 9 campuses, and all 9 campuses agreed that they were going to come up with this comprehensive review system of 14 factors. And now that we are eliminating the SAT, ACT, it's now down to 13. So most of the UC campuses employ a method of comprehensive review called holistic review. So there is a little bit of a difference there, whereby campus admissions offices evaluate applications based on a totality of factors present. In other words, no single factor plays a deciding role in how an applicant is evaluated. So with holistic review, all of these 13 points are generally equally assessed, right? You're generally not going to have a higher expectation on one end versus another. They're all going to be kind of thrown in the pot, if you will, and the student's going to be looked at holistically. With a comprehensive review, it might be a little bit more weighted on one end. Some of the universities might favor, the GPA impact a little bit more than maybe some of the activities. For the most part, I believe when I'm working with my students, the UCs do a really good job of just reviewing the students and seeing who they are, where they come from, their opportunities, how they've achieved what they've taken advantage of. So we're going to go through these comprehensive review points. You can also find them online at the University of California website. So this is nothing new. This is not secret information, but I just want to make sure you understand a little bit what these actually mean. So if you do have questions that are coming up, just go ahead and put that in the Q&A. All right. So the criteria: academic grade point average in all A through G coursework. If you are coming from a public school in California, it's safe to say that you have an A through G course approved directory. So for the most part, all of the courses you're taking are probably A through G approved, except for those PE and health classes. But a lot of times your technical courses can be approved. You might have some honors courses in 10th or 11th grade that are approved. But you do actually have a list, and it's probably in your curriculum guide. The UC campuses are also going to look at the number of and content and performance in academic courses beyond the minimum A through G. Some students are shocked to find out that you only need 2 years of science to be admissible to the UC system. Most students are taking 4. Right. You also only need 3 years of math, including geometry, and most students are taking 4. So what this second point means is that students are assessed on what are you doing above and beyond. Where this tends to show up a lot is the student who stops at Spanish 2 versus the student who continues with Spanish 3 or even AP Spanish. That can actually make an impact. Okay, number of and performance in UC approved honors courses, advanced placement, IB courses, and transferable college courses. So this is all taken into account as well. What this means is that they're going to evaluate how many APs or honors you have taken compared against what your school offers, right? So I gave the example of my independent school that I work at does not offer any AP courses or honors coursework. So my students are not held to that. If we don't offer the APs, they can't be held to the AP standard. However, if your school offers APs, then the expectation is you are taking of as many as possible that that you can handle. Okay, so you're going to be evaluated against what your school offers. Also, there is a top 9% statewide, as well as within your high school. As a junior becoming a rising senior, likely your public school is going to submit the top 15% of your senior class to the UC system, and then the UC system, based on the history of your school, will look at who is in the top 9%, and you may end up with a designation on your application after you apply. Also, part of the comprehensive review is that your senior year program is important. That's what this one is, the very first point. It's important. So you cannot take your foot off the gas. You have to keep achieving or, taking those courses that are pretty much the same level of what you did your junior year. So if you're in for 3 or 4 APs your junior year, you really should be keeping the same level of rigor your senior year. Colleges expect that you're going to challenge yourself every year, and your senior year should be no exception. You can't just take a lot of extra PE or a lot of extra courses or even TA necessarily and forego that rigor because you're tired or you want to break. We get it. We understand seniors are tired, especially now with the pandemic. But when you work with your counselor, you really need to make sure you're keeping the same rigor because that will be noticed during the comprehensive review. Also, the academic performance relative to the opportunities at your high school. I touched on this one before. If your school offers specialized programs or honors and AP courses, and you are not taking those, that will review probably not as favorably in your favor for the admissions. They are also just kind of looking to see how students are doing in specific subject areas. Maybe you've taken every math class you can and you've decided to do community college to work on multivariable calculus or differential equations. Maybe you are going as far as you can in a language or even in a social studies area. That will stand out on your application as well. Any special work in project or academic field of study, sometimes this is reflected in activities. Maybe you're in the Math Olympics, you're doing DECA, you're participating in academic clubs, and you're going to competitions that can reflect as well in your application. And then also if there's any improvement in your academic performance over the years. So this is where I tell students don't panic. If in 9th grade you had a bit of a slower start in math, it's okay, right? So if you ended up going through your next few years and you've improved overall in areas, that's going to be noticed as well, right? Like the UC system rewards that hard work and that that motivation. So don't be afraid if things were a little bit slower for you as a freshman. A lot of times the transition into high school, is hard. And so they know that, right? So let's just keep up with that improvement over the years. And then finally, this really relates to the activities. If you have special talents, achievements, or awards in particular fields, special skills, special interests, this is all where your activities can help you shine and stand out on your application. And then also how you write about yourself too. And so we're going to get into that in a second. So this is the 13 points of comprehensive review. Most campuses are going to evaluate these fairly evenly. Some campuses might be a little bit skewed toward the GPA or academics. But overall, these are the areas you can look at and assess and see how you're doing. Okay, so being test-free, what does this mean for students? So let's just kind of clear out that myth that your SAT or your ACT was what was going to get you into college. Okay, that's not true. And I think what makes families a little nervous is because they fell into that line of thinking, well, if my student has a 1500 on the SAT, they're going to be a good shoe-in for Stanford, right? Not necessarily. It's never really been like that. But I think a lot of families really hang their hat on the idea of a standardized test score is what's going to get them into college. And that's just never really been true. But it's become more apparent now, and the anxiety is so much higher over that now that those test scores are gone, right? So when we think about your highly selective institutions, the UCs, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, Yale, all the Ivies, all of our public Ivies like University of Michigan and UT Austin, right? Like students who have the academics are on the playing field, but they're looking for the what else. What else is going to help you stand out as a student in that applicant pool, right? So you can pretty much assume everybody who's applying to those highly selective institutions have some level of academic ability and intellectual ability that's, shines through in their coursework and their grades, right? So what's going to set you apart, right? And this is where we are here to help you, because we want to make sure that you are more than just a number. You're more than just a GPA. You have so many valuable things to offer to college, but a lot of times students need help trying to put everything into place. So being test-free, what does this mean? It means that we really are encouraging students even more to demonstrate academic curiosity. So take your challenging high school coursework, right? Push yourself a little bit. Even if you are a robotics student, take that AP English course, right? Even if you are going into the humanities, take that AP Studio Art course, right? Like push yourself, be intellectually curious, but also explore and learn what you love. You will find that us as counselors, we are encouraging students to do what they love, because that's what's going to help them shine on the application. Okay. You also get to learn how to be effective in your communication when you push yourself from an academic perspective, right? You're writing more, you're learning more, you're collaborating more. And this all is going to show more academic curiosity, which honestly is exciting for colleges to see. And I know Alan can talk more about that as he was on the admissions side of things. Diving into your activities. So, this is where we say less is more. And let me explain that. You don't necessarily want to spread yourself around to 12 different activities. You want to pick the 2 or 3 that you can dive into, right? So the saying, an inch wide and a mile deep, dig into your activities. Build leadership, start thinking outside the box, work on your personal development within those academic or within those activities, work on your leadership, work on commitment, work on developing your soft skills. Those are all things that can't necessarily be measured by a test or a score, right? Being able to collaborate and work with people, being an effective communicator. Again, those are things that are going to help you stand out. And how can you show that? Through the activities that you choose to do. Develop your writing. I don't care if you are a STEM student and you're going to go into medical research. You have to be able to write. You are writing lab reports. You are communicating. You have to be able to write. Writing is not going to go away, and I don't care what major you're in. Okay, so you cannot avoid that. Within the UC system, the personal insight questions, they're not essays. They are narratives. They are quick, short stories about yourself. And they will have, when we get into the application season with our juniors in the late spring for the writing, we talk to them about the PIQs are really important. You want to make sure you have details, and you only have 350 words to talk about it, about what you're going to talk about. Okay. You have to be precise and to the point. You have to really talk about the impact of what you experienced had on you or others around you. So as counselors at UC Easy, we really work on helping to guide you. You know, this is not necessarily an easy thing. Students don't like to write about themselves. Teenagers don't like to talk about themselves. We've all seen that. We all work through it. It's hard, but you know, we're here to help you. But these are so important because the UC PIQs can, you know, show your amazing character and your commitment and your activities, and everything that you want to tell them. It's the what else. This is the what else. Okay. And then finally, you know, what can you do now, especially if you're a 9th or 10th grader listening to this, you've got a little bit more time, you know, get strong grades in your A through G courses, whatever you can handle, motivate yourself, push yourself, do the best that you can. Okay. Challenge yourself, explore different curriculum. Again, go through that AP language curriculum, take that AP English class, challenge yourself in AP math or science, seek opportunities to learn outside of school, practice learning in a team, be collaborative, you know, do those team projects that we know you probably don't enjoy, but you're going to learn a lot of skills from those, right? Work on developing your soft skills, collaboration, communication, leadership, commitment. You know, if you'll look at job postings for, you know, anywhere from Microsoft to Apple to Google, you know, they need people who can show these skills, right? So it's not just about having that book learning or the academic knowledge. You have to be able to work with people. Okay. And by choosing activities or things to participate in, you're going to start to develop those. All right. And then final thoughts, control what you can. You cannot control some of the actions of admissions. They have their own goals. So you just have to present yourself the best way possible. Prepare now, especially again, if you're 9th and 10th, do your best. Present yourself in context. Remember that the UC system looks for excellence, not perfection. There's nobody that's perfect. Admissions officers are not judging. They just want to understand you. Okay. And then you want to think and work with your counselor on how you can set yourself apart. And then ask for help, tell your story holistically. And if you don't remember anything else from this webinar, diversify your college list. We will say this over and over and over again. Diversify your college list. The UC system is amazing, wonderful campuses, but they are not the only ones out there. And you have to diversify. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Vinny. Vinny, did we have any more thoughts for you, or should we go right into the Q&A?
No, I think you did, Katie, you did well to cover so many complex things in such a short time. And I hope that our audience, especially the students, will have a bunch of questions. So yes, you know, why don't you and Ellen take questions for the next maybe 10 or 15 minutes?
Great. And I'll go ahead and introduce Alan. He's amazing. He's going to lead us off while I catch my breath. And so remember, please put those questions in the Q&A box so we can search for them there. So go ahead, Alan.
Yes. Thanks for having me, everyone. And I hope we can answer your questions fully in a way that will help you out. We have a few questions to start off with. One that we just got about just some clarification again about what the UC PIQs are. So they are, for many schools out there who maybe perhaps use the common application, there's a personal statement essay, and then perhaps some supplemental essays to go along with that. For the University of California system, they have a set of 8 questions and you must respond to 4 of them. So you have your pick to sort of decide which questions may work best for the information that you most want to share with admission officers. Just as a few examples, describe an example of your leadership experience, one about creativity, one about your greatest talent or skill. They're pretty open-ended, but as Katie was mentioning earlier, they aren't necessarily in essay form because they are so short, 350 words. And so you really have to get to the point and provide lots of examples and really show admission officers those pieces about yourself. But they're really a way for the admission office to get a sense of who you are as a person and not just a list of classes or grades. And as we're talking about today, more specifically, standardized test scores. Another question that we got, which is a little bit more, not so much about testing or the UCs, but about UC Easy in general, of whether UC Easy is only for immigrants and whether US born students can be involved. And as Vinny mentioned earlier, we welcome all families and students. While we do have a mission to support students whose parents were educated outside of the US, anyone is welcome to sign up with us who might think that getting a little bit of assistance with college applications and student development might be helpful. Speaking from personal experience, my parents were both born in the US. I was born in the US, but I was the first person in my family to go to college. And so UCZ, I wish that it had been around when I was applying to college, because that would have been, I think, very helpful to me. Another question that we just got, will SAT scores be required outside of the UCs, or is it a complete waste? So yes, there are still schools out there, many schools who do require either the ACT or the SAT, and then many schools who are test optional, as was mentioned earlier as well. So I do still recommend, if you're planning to apply to schools outside of the UC system, which I do recommend doing, because as we said, diversifying your college list is really important. So if you are planning to apply to other schools, then I do recommend going ahead and taking either the SAT or the ACT, and who knows, you might get a really amazing score, and you can use that to your advantage for schools that are test optional as well. Let's see, how do we make the extra classes that our student takes appear on their application? So you are actually going to be self-reporting those classes. So all of the courses that you're taking, whether they be at your high school or a community college or some online courses, you actually are required to share all of that information with the UC system. So be sure to include all of the different classes that you're taking, as well as your grades for those. Let me keep looking in the chat. Katie, do you see any others that
Yeah, I actually see one in the chat. I'll go ahead and take the one in the chat. It says, the question is, are we focused on the UC system or any other colleges too? We absolutely help students look at any college they want to look at in the US or even international. I know we've had some counselors where students have been accepted to schools in the UK, which is very exciting. So no, we definitely will work with students to develop their best college list. Not just in California, or we will help them branch out if they so choose. Many of our families do want to stay in California, and I understand that, or on the West Coast, but no, we absolutely will help for any part of the US and even international. So.
Great. I see a couple of questions about the Texas university system and their applications, especially as it relates to standardized test scores. And Katie, correct me if I'm incorrect in any of this, but they are test optional as well, or not as well. They are test optional, as many schools in the country are. They haven't been quite as final in their decisions as the UC system has in saying for the foreseeable future, but currently they are test optional. Another question about, is the SAT or ACT optional only for California residents for the UCs? And it's actually, they are not considering testing for the admission process or for scholarships for California residents or any other applicants, whether they live in the US or even outside of the US.
I will jump in, and just from one of my students who is a US citizen, but she lives in India, she did apply to the UC system, and she did have to make sure she met the English language requirement. So there might be a little bit testing involved there, but you would work with your counselor on that to see where you might fall. And then I'm just going to jump in real quick too. It says, do you have insight on the Texas application process? We do. We have counselors that work with Texas students all the time. I actually lived in Houston for 8 years, so I'm pretty familiar with the Texas system. So don't be shy if you are wanting to sign up with us and you live in Texas, or you want to look at Texas universities, we can definitely help.
One question that I think will probably be helpful for many in the group today is, I'm a junior, and for a year and a half of school, I was virtual and didn't get to do as many activities and extracurricular activities as I had planned. And that is something that many students, if not all students across the nation, are experiencing, right? So that is something that is absolutely top of mind for admission officers as they're reading your applications, to understand that context both the general context of the pandemic and not being able to be involved with extracurriculars, but also your specific context. And many, if not most, I would say, institutions out there have some sort of response available, usually optional, to provide that context on how the pandemic affected your high school journey. So if there are extenuating circumstances, things that are very specific to your situation, then you can work with a UC Easy counselor, hopefully, or decide on your own what type of response you want to provide for that. But that context is extremely important. And again, something that all admission officers are taking into account right now, and context in general as well, right? Katie was speaking earlier that this is a holistic admission process. There are many pieces of the pie, and context really is sort of the overlaying, I guess, frosting, maybe you could say, of that pie. So that's something that is taken into account for each piece of your application.
We have another question in the chat, so I will go ahead and take that one. Do courses taken online, such as Coursera, count towards coursework? That's a tricky one because students would assume, well, I'm taking Intro to Business through Coursera, it should be an academic class. It's actually not. It's more of an activity. And let me explain why. Anything that is an academic class will award you credit either through a community college or a high school. Coursera, Udacity, edX, those are all generally free open online courseware. These are amazing courses. I consider them high reward, low risk. You can take courses that are exciting for you, but they're more of an activity, an academic activity, not an academic course that you would get work for. But we do talk to our students about taking these because it can really show that intellectual curiosity. So don't be dismissive of them because they don't give you, the credits or the A. Think of them as a way to show that intellectual vitality, curiosity, excitement towards learning something new.
We have another question about the range of SAT or ACT scores that might be recommended. Again, for the UCs, that's not really a part of their process, but for other schools who are requiring tests, or especially for test optional schools, you'll want to look at the middle 50% of students that they are admitting and see where you fall within that range. And that's where a UC Easy counselor can be of great assistance to you in deciding which schools that you might want to submit your SAT and ACT score to, and which ones where it may not add value to your application. So it's truly a case-by-case basis. And unfortunately, the most common answer when asking any sort of question about college admission in the US is that it depends, or it's a case-by-case basis. So it's not a very satisfying answer, but that is the case. So it will just depend on your specific scores and the specific schools to which you're applying.
All right, I'll go ahead and take one more and then we'll go ahead and turn it over to Vinny. So our AP courses taken out of public schools are counted to GPA or academic merit. I'm assuming this person is asking about courses taken at virtual online high schools. So for example, BYU Independent High School Online does AP coursework, UC Scout, obviously the Shadow High School Online for the UC system. They all offer APs. Yes, the answer is yes. Those two offer, they give transcripts, right? So when you get a transcript, you get a grade on there, you get credits. Even if your high school doesn't put that on your transcript, that's okay. You're still going to report that separately and your counselor is going to help you do that. Your UC Easy counselor will help you with that. So yes, you can definitely take APs, self-study online, and then you can also choose to take the test if your high school will allow you to test. So yes, those do count. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Vinny so he can wrap us up a little bit, but go ahead and keep putting those questions in there in the Q&A box because we will probably have a little bit of time to answer some more questions for you. So please keep those questions coming in the Q&A box. Go ahead, Vinny.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Alan, for all of this information. And over the next, say, 10 minutes or so, I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of how do you engage UC Easy if you think that this system is too complex and you cannot manage it on your own. But we will have Katie and Alan come back for a few more questions. So please hang around. One request that before you leave, if you can fill the short feedback poll on your screen, it'll really help us improving our content and other things in the future. So I'm going to share my slides. All right. So obviously, if you are here you are looking to get more information on college admissions, today we talked about UCs, the University of California. But overall, again, given my own journey and based upon our experience in supporting thousands of families through UC Easy, if you are someone who is feeling overwhelmed with, I don't know what decisions to take during high school so that the student becomes competitive for college admissions, or I don't know what the application process is, where to apply. First thing first, where are you currently getting all that help from? Is it coming from your public high school or even from most private high schools that simply don't have the budget to provide personalized guidance for these kind of decisions? UC Easy, that's where we come in, where we provide highly personalized guidance one-on-one through experts. You met with two of them today in a highly personalized manner, and our typical student to counselor ratio is under 20:1. Compare that to the student to counselor ratios at public schools and expensive private high schools. This is something that I would urge you to think about. Who is your child's primary competition, especially if you aspire to the highest ranking colleges in the United States? The data that you have on your screen, very few people realize this. We all think that our students' competition is another student from the same school, the same public school, or the same private school. That unfortunately is not the case, especially if you aspire to these topmost colleges in the country. Here is a hard fact. Students coming from these really what we call elite private high schools that would charge $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, as many as 30% of their students would go into the top 10, 20 into the top 20 colleges in the country. The similar number for even a highly ranked public high school like the one where my own kids went to, that number falls to 1 or 2%. That is your primary competition. And these students, among other things, are getting huge amount of college admissions related guidance from their schools. So no help at your school, competition from students that go to these expensive private high schools. How do you level the playing field for your child? And that is where UC Easy comes in. Our goal through the UC Easy Academy and our team of 75 experts, actually more than that, our goal is to bridge that gap so that your child gets a level playing field in terms of preparing for college admissions and then applying for colleges. How do we do this? We have two programs. We look at college admissions as a 5-year cycle. Most people look at college admissions as just the applications in the 12th grade. Based on our experience, on my team, like I said, I've got 75 experts plus several other leaders on the team, in the core team. Overall, about 1,000 years of experience in college admissions. Based upon this, we made this pyramid of progression towards the college applications. Every grade, there is a specific goal. The biggest learning in the 7 years that UC Easy has been around is that you need to look at college admissions as a two-step process. You apply for colleges in grade 12, but grade 8 till 10 is when you lay the foundation of the student that will become competitive for college admissions. So we have a very robust, very innovative program in 8th to 10th grade, and then a very robust program that helps you apply to colleges in the 11th and 12th grade. In all of this, while we support all majors, the one thing that really we are really strong at is STEM admissions, especially computer science, pre-med, and engineering. So what we do is that in our academy, I'm giving you an overview today, but you can contact my team to schedule a completely free consultation to discuss your student and our programs. But so what we do is that we offer highly personalized guidance through all of these grades that I talked about. In addition, some of you might say that, hey, my student is not clear about what he or she wants to do after college or what she wants to study in college. So we also have experts that specialize. These are called career and major specialists who can work with the student to great level of detail for that student, give recommendations in terms of what is the right fit career for you and right fit college major. Third element of what we do is college essay program. We, in 12th grade, we will review your child's essays, but at UC Easy, we are obsessed with college essays. Katie and Alan talked about it today, right? For UCs, University of California, even for them, even though they are not as comprehensive admissions as, say, a Stanford or an Ivy League, essays are now the second most important factor. And yet, most students and their parents don't take them seriously. It just, to me, is always so hugely concerning that a student starts writing a college essay the first time in fall of the senior year with a clock ticking and with huge amount of stress. So we actually have a very unique program where you can enroll either in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, where we teach you college essay writing, which is writing about yourself, not about World War II or civil rights movement, through helping you figure out what you want to write about and just getting so much practice. So that's our third element. So the first is personalized guidance or counseling. Second is career and major exploration. The third is college essay writing. I talked about how deep STEM runs inside UC Easy. This is just an example of the quality of leaders that we have that are running our STEM programs. Chris Sharp, computer science. He ran computer science admissions at Carnegie Mellon University, CMU, which is currently ranked number 3 in the country. Brian Ford is our lead for pre-med admissions and also combo BS MD programs. And he did admissions work in this program at Boston University, which is ranked number 10 in the country, or among the number 10. This is just a sampling of UC Easy acceptances. I actually need to update this slide to show 21 as well. But what you see here is our students got into a very large percentage of colleges ranked in top 25 and in the top engineering and computer science programs in the country. How do you learn more about UC Easy programs? Very simple. Just send an email to info@uceasy, that's a z.com, and my team will contact you, schedule a completely free consultation where we will meet with you and your child to learn about your aspirations and recommend the right UC Easy programs. With that, let's bring our experts back, Katie Watts and Alan Rigby, for a few more of your questions. And again, just a quick reminder to please fill the feedback form on your screen before you leave.
Thank you for that. So we do have one more question to answer in terms of looking for scholarships. I would say that the first line of what you should do in considering scholarships is to make sure that you are familiar with the scholarships offered by the schools to which you're applying. And oftentimes those might have earlier application deadlines, or perhaps there might be an additional essay or even a full other application to fill out. So make sure that as you're thinking about supplemental essays and things of that nature, that you're also thinking about those scholarship applications. And then also be aware of need-based financial aid scholarships as well. Sometimes it may be a little scary to look at an institution who has a sticker price of $70,000 a year, but that's not necessarily the amount that you would pay. Every school has a net price calculator on their website. And I would encourage you to go take a look at a few of those for schools that you're even just thinking about, just to get a sense of what actually your costs for those institutions would be. But there are lots of other private scholarships out there, lots of different websites where you can search for those. I don't know, Katie, if you have any particular websites that you lead students to, but there are just so many out there. It's hard to really nail down one site.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say about that is, just make sure when you're applying for scholarships that you understand scholarships are free to apply to. So I know in the past there's been lots of marketing by programs, and I'm not going to call them scams, but you might get something in the mail that says, come to our scholarship workshop. We can guarantee scholarships, but you got to pay us $2,500. So I've seen those letters before. All scholarships are free to apply for, but yes, that is something that you can look at. Yeah. So there's lots of scholarships that are out there. You got to work for those. That's the main thing, is you got to work for them. I'll go ahead and cover something that hasn't come up this time, but in every other session that we've done, students are always asking, like, what activity should I be doing? So I'll just kind of take us out with this idea that, your activity should be based on what you love to do, honestly. And that's, I think you're going to find with all of us UC Easy counselors, we are always encouraging students to participate where their skills and interests lead them, not that we are trying to force you into doing something that you have no interest in. I always tell students, I'm not going to tell you to learn to play the violin because you might be terrible at it and your parents are going to hate the noise. So do what you love, and all activities are on the table, everything from sports to arts to sciences to academic activities to volunteering, and that's something that you can partner with your counselor with to get some ideas. I will tell you right now, we are all in the middle of working with our juniors for summer programs. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of a hint on what we're working on right now, because those are going to be coming up quick. So hopefully that will help guide you into thinking about planning for summer and thinking about your activities, especially if you're a junior. So we'll go ahead, I think, and end there. Vinny, any final thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to add, for those of you who might want to consider enrolling in the UC Easy Academy, I wanted to add something to what Katie said about activities and summer planning. This is a big, big, big initiative at UC Easy. So remember, I've been talking about UC Easy being an online or a virtual school with multiple experts and talents. We have also made huge investments in creating databases of unique activities that your student can do, and for us to give you specific guidance on activities that you can choose based on your student's personality and the choice of college major. We've gone to great length to support this activity initiative. For example, next month, we are going to be doing a UC Easy Activities Fair. This is for UC Easy clients only, so you need to be part of the academy, where we will invite hand-picked partner organizations from all across the country to talk about their unique programs over summer. These are we spend a lot of time in figuring out who these partners are and how they relate to different majors. Among other things, we also have a partnership with somebody that will give your student a platform for doing research. This, again, I just want to add to Katie that helping you with these unique activities, and that's the key, that it's a big strength of UC Easy. But with that comment, let me start wrapping up our webinar, because we are past our allocated time today. So first of all, thank you, Katie Watts and Alan Rigby, for your wonderful insights. I've heard you guys talk so many times, but every time I learn something new. Secondly, to all our attendees, our guests today, thank you so much for joining, especially so late on a Sunday afternoon. We wish you well. Please stay safe with everything that's going on around us. We hope to see you soon and at another event. And again, if you would want to discuss your specific situation with somebody on my team, simply email info@uceasy.com. Fill the feedback form on your way out. And I would like to invite Katie and Alan to say any parting thoughts, goodbye type stuff before we close today.
Thanks, Vinny. Thank you for attending. Like Vinny said, I know it's Sunday afternoon. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy the second semester. And just a reminder, the college process doesn't have to be scary, but we're here to help you and we're here to partner with you. So please do reach out.
Yes, thank you all for being here on a Sunday and listening. I hope we were helpful. And we, as Vinny said, we hope to see you soon if you'd like to join some of our future webinars. And I would say, as Katie said, it can be scary, it can be stressful. But I also think the college admission process can be really rewarding, and it involves a lot of self-reflection, and you learn a lot about yourself. So, so try to think positively as you go through the process. But yes, thank you for being here, and we'll see you hopefully soon.
Thank you all.